Hi, everybody. This is Heather from NCW Libraries, and today I'm interviewing Esker. And she is actually on a work trip down at the Four Corners. And while she's there, she's exploring some trails. So we are going to do a little video for beginner trail users. Go ahead, Esker.
Hi. Today we're talking about trail etiquette or trail manners. And when you think of trails, you think of getting out, exploring, experiencing the area. And so etiquette is sort of being aware of what's in your environment. And so if you've ever dropped a pebble in water, think about the ripple effect, and that's the ripples as they come out. So we're sort of the pebble, and the ripple effect is how we affect our environment, our fauna and flora in the area, the flowers, the trees, the animals, and other people around us. So trails are out there. And so when we think about trails too, trails are available through city, county, state, national, such as national parks, national forestry trails. So trails are everywhere. Get out and explore, and we'll talk about the etiquette. So I have, regarding the etiquette, I have some ideas here and some signs that I've seen and picked up along the way. One is and I wasn't sure, can you see this, or did you want to overlay?
We will overlay it, but you can go ahead and talk about the letters on it.
Okay, so this is a sign I found online, and it's called RESPECT. So this one is specific to biking, but you can also incorporate it into hiking etiquette and or manners. So the first one for R is ride or hike to your ability. So you want to be aware of your terrain. You want to know if the trail is easy, moderate, difficult. And a lot of that is planning ahead. And so you're looking at the maps, you're looking at the area, whether it be through books, online, it could be at the trailhead. And so you're getting an idea of what your trail is and what your experience will be. So that is the R. So ride within your ability, hike within your ability. The E is earn your turn. And so earn your turn is support your trails. A lot of times we have to buy passes, such as the Discovery Pass, and this supports the trails and the maintenance of the trails. Sometimes donations, volunteering, that can help too. So that's the R, the E, and the S is share the trail. So sharing with other people, and we'll talk about some signs later that go into that. But a lot of these trails that we're on are multi-use trails. And so we have hikers, runners, bicyclists, horseback riders. So we have different uses for these trails. And it's just to be aware of who you're sharing that trail with. The P is plan ahead, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. But planning ahead can include, like we talked about, the map, having a compass so that when you're on the trail, you might be able to look at the different terrain, see where you are, locate where you're going. Planning ahead is important also as far as your equipment that you're taking with you, how you're dressing, and what you're wearing. And the E is expect the unexpected. Expecting the unexpected is planning ahead also. And so that you have a safety kit with you. Expecting the unexpected also means that you're again, aware of the environment, aware of where you're going, the trail itself, what it may offer to you, but being ready for emergencies, making sure someone knows where you are. If you don't have a friend with you, is tell someone where you're going before, and then make sure that you have some plan if you don't get back when you think you'll be getting back, so that they'll know that you're out there, right? And then for some trails that have cell phone coverage, bring your cell phone. It's good for photos anyways, but it's a good contact for other people. And if there's an emergency, is to have your cell phone with you. So that's the E. The C is closed means closed. Closing certain areas of trails occurs when they need to preserve the area. There may have been overuse to the area, and usually you see a sign or you see a log across the area. So it's saying just to stay out of that area, keep it closed, and try not to enter the area, allow it to regrow, for example. And then the T is take it home. So pack it in, pack it out, leave no trace. So to summarize, with a lot of these signs and pamphlets, is leave no trace, pack it in, pack it out, be aware, share, and plan ahead. So these are things that when you think about going on your trail, think about the etiquette, think about yourself as the pebble and all that ripple effect that occurs when you're walking on that trail and how you can interact with your environment and your trail, essentially. So that's a really good beginning sort of thought process. Yeah. So.
Can I just jump in and add to the closure? If you are trying to go out and hike, always look up the trail before you go, because some trails are closed for example, in Wenatchee, we have trails that get closed for mule deer in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Just always look up the trail, so then you're not disappointed if you get there and it is closed.
That's true. That's true. And it reminds me of another in our area too with fire season. Some of these areas are closed outside of the fire areas. So really check ahead when you're hiking and check the weather reports as well as the fire reports. Yeah. So, and then we talked about trail manners. So being aware of who's in the area. This one, you're going to see this type of sign in a lot of different areas, and it's a yield sign. And it tells us who to yield to when we're on a multi-use trail. Big idea on this one is downhill. If you're going downhill, you yield to the uphill. So if you're on a bike, if you're hiking, or you're on a horse, you're yielding to those people coming uphill if you're going downhill. That's really important. Make them aware that you're there. Say hi if you can. A lot of these recommendations say 10 to 15 feet to stay away, 10 to 15 feet. On a lot of these smaller or narrower trails, it's hard to do that. So it's really important that you make people aware that you're there. And when you're around horses, for example, allow time for everybody to get in place. And so, but yeah, so basically the bicyclist yields to the hiker and to the horse. The hiker yields to the horse, and the horse in this scenario is not yielding to anyone, but the horse will be on the trail, will be able to or allow the horse to move to the side, the rider to move to the side, and again, allow everyone to be aware that each other is there. So that's really important as far as trail etiquette. Yeah.
Yeah, and one more thing I'll add to that, during this time, especially if you're going out on a hike that's really close by to your town, there's likely going to be lots of other hikers there. Mm-hmm. And it would be a good idea to bring a mask so you can put it on when you're hiking past another person, and try to really keep that 6-foot distance right now. I like to turn away when I'm hiking past somebody, just give them the peace of mind, try to keep my distance, and definitely put my mask on if I get into that 6-foot bubble.
That's a really good idea. I carry a mask like this, and I tuck it in. I have for short hikes, I use just a water pack. It has a little zip for food, and the water is in the camelback. But I carry this and I put it to the side, so it's always available. Another way is to use your scarves, even though the scarf is not giving as much protection, but you can put it around, you can use it for different uses. So absolutely. Methow Trails has a sign that you'll see that incorporates that. And it talks about what you're saying. Notice if the trail's closed, sometimes they'll close if it's high use area. It talks about keeping distance from everyone, 6 feet or more. And then like you're talking about, if you're really close that you're turning or you're trying to create that space. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and with that point of creating space, you still want to be conscious of where you're moving off to the side to, because you don't want to be going off the trail and stepping on the vegetation that is trying to be protected. So you still want to stay on the trail as much as possible, but also be giving other hikers that space. So just something to think about when you're out there.
Yeah. And a lot of it, another thing in reference to the trail and trail courtesy is they'll talk about moving on the downhill side. A horse wouldn't do that. A hiker and a bicyclist might. But again, you're not trying to go off trail too much. You're trying to stay on that trail so that like you say, the vegetation and all is protected, definitely. And if you have a dog, make sure that your trail allows dogs. And this was another sign I thought was really cute. I don't know if you can see that, that there is no poop theory. And that, you pick up after the dog. They do require, most trails require that the dog be on a leash. Go ahead.
And that's completely fine. There are areas that you can hike with your dog off leash, but most likely if you are on a popular trail outside of your town, it's going to be required that your dog is going to be on a leash. And that's usually right at the trailhead. There's a sign that will say dogs on leashes. But if you look up that trail online, whether it's on like Forest Service or Park Service or Land Trust Land or BLM, like if you look it up, you'll be able to find if the dog is supposed to be leashed or if it's even allowed. There's a lot of popular hikes around, like the encampments, for example. You can't bring your dogs into any areas in the encampment. So just always look, and that goes back to the planning ahead. If you're planning ahead, you never have this issue where you show up with a dog who's not supposed to be there.
Yeah. So dogs are important and animals, but definitely knowing the rules. Knowing the rules are important, the rules and regs. So, and did you want me to talk about maybe tips for new hikers or what to bring in that backpack if you're bringing it?
Yes. So do you want to jump into the question now? Okay. So yeah. So what are the essentials that you would bring on a day hike?
Okay. So think head to toe, and a lot of it depends seasonal, of course, terrain. But basically, you have a hat on, whether it be winter, summer. You're going to avoid heat by shading, and then in the winter, you're going to avoid that loss of heat from the head. So have a hat, sunglasses, protect the eyes. That's really important. Also, we talked about the masks or the scarves. Scarves are important just to have if you want to put there if it's dusty or whatever. And then bring water, food. Always have enough water for you. And layer. I'm sorry, going back to the clothing. Layer. Know your terrain. Have a rain jacket, wind jacket, and then layer so you can take things off or put on. And then have a good pair of shoes or boots. That's really important. Happy feet are very important for a hiker or a bicyclist. Know your bike, know your equipment. That's important.
I think the one thing, and I hike a lot, and the one thing that I will always forget on day hikes, because I'll be like, oh, it's a short drive and I'm only going to hike this many miles and I'll be back to my car in plenty of time, is a headlamp.
Yes.
I have 2 headlamps and I never put it in my day pack. And then I've hiked out in the dark before, and I always regret not bringing my headlamp. So
yes, and that is so important. I know
yeah.
I've gotten into that same situation. So headlamps are incredibly important to bring with you.
They're
Um,
light. You can buy a cheap one from
mhm.
Walmart or somewhere. You can buy a really fancy, expensive, like USB charging one with the higher light online
Mhm.
or at REI. But buy one, buy extra batteries, keep it in your backpack always.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing too, sometimes even on day trips, is a little safety kit. And the safety kit could include your headlamp because it has that flashing light. A lot of them do. You can have a reflecting surface so that if you get lost, you know that whistle, reflecting surface, those things help people locate you. Of course, having a compass, a map, and in the safety kit, duct tape. Always have duct tape. Very important. So all those things, I think, yeah, just even for a day trip, they're tiny.
Yeah.
You just close them in and they're there.
In your small first aid kit. Yeah, for sure. All of that. Um, yes. And if you forget these or you want like a list to always have on you, if you just look up the 10 essentials for hiking,
Yeah.
um, yeah, you can find a list online anywhere. So it's a good idea to look that up, have that list, especially if you're new to this, just so you can check it off every time you go out.
Yeah, yeah. And for new hikers, we talked about shoes, safety kit, and the things that you bring. And it's really important to know your abilities and what you want to do and what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And especially getting in some of the longer hikes, you know, where
Yeah.
you, and we're talking about hiking. I mean, that goes for biking also, or any multi-use area for whatever purpose or intent you are.
And you can look that up too. If you look up the trail, oftentimes you can find like the elevation, how long it is, if it's a trail that would be for like a beginner, intermediate person, and then it's like skill level ranking. So you can usually find that stuff online. And after we get through some of these questions, I'll go into some apps and some places where you can find trails and track your hikes and bikes.
Okay.
But I guess yeah, going through the rest of these questions, Esker. What else do you need besides the 10 essentials? What do you need to park at the trailhead?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you're going to most trailheads, again, whether they be city, county, state, national, you're going to see a bulletin board oftentimes, and on that will be what you need as far as pass. If you need a parking pass, you may need a trail pass. And then what kind of pass, and there are different kinds of passes. And so look at those, see if you have the right kind of pass. That's important. And again, that would be part of the planning thing too. You could see that maybe ahead of time. The trailhead also, what you'll find when you're parking there, usually a map. A lot of them will tell you where you are, and they have the rules and regs of that trailhead. Some will say, beware of, and it could be bears, rattlesnakes, depending on where you are. And then it talks about sometimes what you need to bring, make sure you have enough water and that sort of thing. So definitely look at those signs at the trailhead. And some trailheads also have sign-in little boxes that you can sign in, especially for the longer hikes or if you're overnight, in that it will talk about who you are, how many people are in the party, maybe even what kind of car you drive. So those are important things to look for.
And then some fun questions. What is your favorite snack to bring on the trail?
Yeah, so so I thought about this. I usually have something high in protein and or carbs, which would be anywhere from a trail mix, and you can make your own, and there are tons of recipes out there. Get something you like. That's important. And then I usually will take, depending again on your intent of the trail. So a lot of times we are hiking these trails and we'll be able to sit down, enjoy a snack, and so have something, whether it be a sandwich or whatever it is, but have something that you really like. It's nutritional. Sometimes people bring fruit. On my side, I like to have a trail mix that I've made up and sort of just munch on. So yeah.
Okay. I think my favorite, maybe not my favorite hiking snack, but the most satisfying one that I had was I was doing a really long snowshoe and I had brought cold pizza with, and I didn't even think to
Ooh.
get pizza, but or cold pizza, but it was good. So leftovers work better in the winter when you're not hiking
Yes.
when it's like hot and like making your
Cold
food.
pizza. Great idea. Great idea.
But yeah,
Yeah.
just anything. I often bring peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on my hike.
Mhm.
Something really easy. You've got the
Mhm.
carbs, you've got the protein. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to overthink your food,
Yeah.
but definitely bring snacks, bring a lunch if it's going to be a long hike.
Yeah.
And overbring snacks too. It's just
Mhm.
in case you're out there longer than you want it to be, or maybe your friend didn't have a granola bar. It's nice
Yeah.
to be prepared for other people as well.
That's true. That's very true. And always have, and I can't emphasize this enough, always have enough water
Mhm.
with you. You can always, it's better to have more water. You mentioned more food. Better to have more water too than less. So always have water with you. Yeah. So, yeah.
What is your favorite trail?
And that's another hard question because they're all great. It depends on my intent. A lot of times I look at my distance and my time that I have, and whether I be biking or hiking, which is what I usually do. I like the Methow trails because that's in my area. And what's really neat about those trails is they go from town to front country, and you could even extend it to back country. And so I really like that option. But again, it depends on my intent. But my favorite trails in the Methow area go along the rivers, and you can see the mountains in the background. And yeah, and they're just, yeah, they're numerous. And so I don't have one particular trail that I love, but because they're all great. That was a really hard one.
Okay, okay. Do you have any new tips, or any other tips for new hikers?
Yeah, for new hikers, again, emphasizing just know if you can your abilities to some degree, and really, you're out there to explore, experience, and enjoy. So there's always the unknown, and that's great. Planning ahead is also good, and you can incorporate that and still explore the unknown. So always incorporate a plan and have layers because you never know with weather, especially if you're going up in elevation, what you're going to run into. And for the day hikes too, I think for new hikers, just having things available to you, making sure you have more water, more food. So sort of in a way over plan in that respect, but know your area, know your abilities, and know your equipment, and have your food and water. So yeah, all of those things. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I am going to real quick talk about a few different apps and websites you can use. Fly is not leaving me alone. That you can use to find hikes and to track your hikes. And so the biggest way that I find hikes that I want to do is through Washington Trails Association. And so you can just go
Mhm.
to that website, and it's really cool because you can find there's a map, and so you can go to the map and you can pick the filters that you want to use. So you can filter it by if it's kid friendly, if it's dog friendly, if there's lakes, waterfalls, you can filter it by how long you want it to be on
Mhm.
either end. So if you want it to be like somewhere between 5 miles and 25 miles, that's a pretty big range. But you can filter that. You can add elevation. So you can, if you want to know elevation hike, you can put that in there. You can put up to like 5,000 plus feet that you would like to gain of elevation. And then it'll show you, it'll pop up all the trails in your area. So that's a really good resource. I often I often go on there's a Facebook page called Washington Hikers and Climbers, and I
Mhm.
I'll often just be scrolling through that, and they'll see a hike that I really want to do. So I'll add that to my never-ending list of hikes that I still want to complete.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Yeah, there's so many. You never really have to do the same one twice. So those are the two main resources where I find the trails that I want.
Nice.
Once I find a trail, I'll often look up reports online, and sometimes I'll just Google it. Sometimes I'll use Wenatchee Outdoors. They have a bunch of trails, and there's usually some really good trail reports on Wenatchee Outdoors. I'll use, if I know I'm going up to the Methow, I'll use the methowtrails.org website, and I can look at trail reports. You can look up trails that you'd like to hike on. If you know you're going to go up there, like maybe you could just go to Methow Trails instead of the WTA site, and then look up the trails that you'd like to be hiking on or biking on. And then once I find my trail and I'm ready to go, I oftentimes use Gaia. It's a app that tracks your trails. And the other thing I like about Gaia is if I know I want to go to a certain area with multiple trails, but I'm not sure how I want to hike on them, I can create a hike beforehand. So I can trace out my hike on the trails that I want to be on. I can make a loop. I can go out and back. I can find sometimes little campsites, whether that's dispersed camping or so if I'm backpacking, I often create a big long route, and then I can save it to my phone. And so I have that, and that's the map that I bring. Always a good idea to bring a paper map too, in case your phone dies. I have a little solar charging thing for my phone that I bring with when I hike.
Nice.
But there's other ones. There's Trail Forks and Strava and multiple apps you can use to track your hike. There's a new app around, and this doesn't extend to all of our branches, and so I apologize, but it's called Tread Map app, and this is a really, really cool app that you can go on. You can download it on your Android or your iPhone, and it'll show you a lot of trails in this area, and there is a very large range, so it's not just Wenatchee. But it has filters, and so you can filter it by like air quality or smoke. You can pin if you're hiking and there's a tree down or something like that. Like you can pin that, and it'll let somebody know that that tree needs to be removed. And oftentimes somebody else will come remove it, like some other hiker or dirt biker. And then they'll clear the trail. So it's usually other trail users clearing the trail for hikers. It doesn't always go to the Forest Service or wherever that trail lays. Like oftentimes if it's a multi-use trail with dirt bikers, they'll come up and they'll clear the trail, and all the trees will be gone. And then you don't have to climb all over.
That's nice.
Yeah, you can share your location. You can plan your different hike. You can connect with other trail users, and then you can usually find like a spot that supports that trail afterwards. So what we like to advertise on there that different breweries or different stores that support the trails. And so if you want to make sure to use places like that. But anyway, that's so that app, that's my shout out to them. It's a super awesome app. So that's exciting. And then what was that?
Sorry.
No,
I was just wondering, how do you spell, is it Gia?
Oh, Gaia. So it's so it's a GAIA.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can make a list, and we can throw that in the video too. So that would be, so everybody has that list of resources. All right. So that's all I have on that. And then we were going to talk real quick about a journaling activity. And I will also include a journal template for you to print out for your kids or for yourself.
Okay. So when we were doing this, and we've talked about journaling, I think in the past presentation when we were talking about mushrooms, for example. So journaling is really fun for writing, for artwork, for people of all ages. And going back to the 5 senses, it's really fun if you can write about what you see, what you hear, what you've touched, what you've experienced. And so journaling on the trail, drawing and writing would be a lot of fun. And so that would be a great activity Yeah, so any time of the year.
Cool. All right. Well, I did just want to make one more announcement that if your branch is in an area where we are doing curbside pickup, you can check out nature backpacks that have binoculars and a bug catcher and ID cards and tape measure. And also, they have a Discover Pass in them now. So you can check those out from branches that are doing curbside pickup. And also, you can check out just a Discover Pass on its own. I'm hoping by the time this video goes out, those are those are available too. So you can check out either one of those things. We do ask that you return the backpack back to the branch you specifically checked it out for. Right now, it's just way easier for us that way. But if you absolutely cannot, you can check it back into a branch that is accepting returns right now. And if you have any questions about hiking or backpacking or biking, feel free to put that in the comments of this video, and Esker and I will try to answer those questions for you.
I think that would be fun.
It would be super fun. So yeah, feel free to post away. But cool. Well, thank you, Esker.
Thank you.
That was a very fun talk.